Hello and welcome to day 4. This is our 4th lesson for the Exquisite Scrap Quilt in the AQS Let's Quilt series. Before we begin, I just want to talk a little bit about your downloadables for today because it is actually 20 pages. Now, one of the things that we did on this is I've given you several different options of how to lay these blocks out. And you'll see here on the bottom of the first page, and it goes into the second page, that we have given you what I call just little thumbnails of how you could lay it out. Now, when you get ready to download that, if you will just click on those, it will take you to pages where you get a bigger version of that particular quilt. So if you want to download them all, you certainly can do that. But if you just see 2 or 3 that you'd like to try, then that's the ones that you should print. Now, before we begin doing some fun, the fun part, the most fun part of this whole class, when I teach this in a guild setting, I take all of the blocks that all of the quilters have made, and we get down on the floor and we lay out different quilts. Well, today I'm going to do that on a design wall, the design wall from Off the Wall Quilt. But it's fun to see with just one turn of a block what changes that you can make. Now, I want to make sure that all of you that are watching go and register for the giveaway. Our sponsors have provided some great prizes, so I'm going to give those to you now so that you know that you need to go register because you can't win if you don't register. From Bernina of America, they're giving us their extra large trolley, and it's going to be filled with a whole lot of tchotchke stuff, some extra special things that they're giving you. Everything Mary will provide 2 prizes that include each person will get their extra large rolling case, the deluxe store and tote, collapsible desktop craft caddy, and their extra large machine dust cover. Havel's Sewing will provide 4 winners, and they'll each receive the rotary cutter and mat, snips, and fabric scissors. Off the Wall Quilt is giving 4 prizes. One person will win the 72-inch design wall like we'll be using here today. One person will receive the rotating cutting mat set. Another will receive the adjustable ruler set. And the 4th person will receive the 18-inch design wall that we showed you earlier. From Panasonic, we also will have 4 winners, and they will win the WL602 cordless iron, and that's the same one that I used right here in the class. Tracy's Tables will provide 1 lucky winner with a 3-drawer cutting table, and that has a value of $760. So make sure you go to quiltweek.com/letsquilt, scroll down until you see the register button, and lucky winners will receive 1 of this whole variety of prizes. We're going to take just a short message from our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll put up the design wall and we're going to play with these blocks.
I'm Amanda Murphy, and I'm a quilt and pattern designer. The Bernina Q16 is quilting magic. One of the hallmarks of a great quilting experience is when you lose yourself in your work.
Bernina, made to create.
Everything Mary strives to make people's lives brighter by designing and creating craft storage solutions. From sewing storage to general storage, we make items varying in material and uses to make your creative journey easier.
Okay, now I'm at the design wall, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to manipulate these blocks. The one thing that you want to do as you work with the blocks is just keep track of where the dark corner is. And I've already laid out here 8 blocks that could be a table runner. Okay, so now let's just see what happens. I'm going to go with, I'll pull these off of here. We're going to move this down so I can make a star. You see how easy this is? A flannel that were the design walls made of flannel. So I'm going to make the center of the star dark. So again, I'm just paying attention to where the dark corner of the block is. Okay, so now we have to put some points on that star. Okay, so there we have a dark center, we have dark points, and what a pretty star. Now, if you're one of these people who makes Quilts of Valor quilts, just imagine how much fun it would be to use this for the center of one of your quilts, and you've made it all out of scraps. Now, if we wanted to put a light center in here, we would just reverse all of these blocks. I sort of like it when it draws your eye into the center with a dark center. But if you want it to look like you're looking into oblivion, then maybe a light center is what you want. You get to be the one to decide. Okay, so let's just see what happens if I turn these. I know many of you are familiar with sunshine and shadow. Okay, and so now we have dark square, dark halves, whole light squares. And the one thing about most of the designs that we've given you is you want even numbers of blocks. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have odd numbers of blocks, but you're going to end up with a lot more halves of something somewhere on your quilt. Okay, so what if we tried to do a zigzag? Okay, so do you see? We've built ourselves a zigzag. All right, so let's just look. What do we do if we do flying geese? And you really just have to rub these against that flannel wall, and they'll stay there pretty well for you. All right, so now you see we have light colored flying geese going this direction, dark colored flying geese going that direction. So I really want you, when you get your blocks made, to just play with a number of these designs. We're going to take a short break for our sponsors, and when we come back, I'm going to show you the full-size quilt that I made using this technique.
Tracy's Tables has all of your custom sewing table needs. Visit tracystables.com to see the complete line of unique tables, carts, and shelves. And all of Tracy's tables are made in the USA.
Well, now we've hung the quilt that I made using this technique. And you know how sometimes people challenge us quilters? Well, I had a lady say to me, "You can't buy fabric to make a scrap quilt." And so I said, "I bet I can," and I went to a shop in Kelowna, Iowa, and took every pink and blue fabric they had on the shelf and had them cut me 1/4 of a yard. I made this quilt, and I made another quilt the same size. And if you want to have fun with kids, this is a great block to do that with. The time I had these blocks all made, I had a school contact me to come. They were talking about Mrs. Eisenhower making a quilt, and the teacher wanted to have something about quilts. So I thought, oh gosh, what can I do? So I took these blocks, we divided the kids up, gave each group blocks, and I showed them a variety of things, just like I just did with you, of how you can turn the blocks and create a different design. And they created their own design. I sewed it together that way, and then I gave it away as a raffle quilt. It was a great exercise for the kids. They got to learn a little bit about color, because this really is all about color value, lights and darks, the light and dark half of the block. And so it was a fun afternoon with the kids, and we got a raffle quilt out of it as well. So out of all that fabric that I bought, I made 2 quilts this size, and I still had pieces left over to make some other small projects. So just keep that in mind. You know, as quilters, we like to share, and sharing with the young people is best of all. Maybe we'll make them into some future quilt makers. You laid your quilt out, and you did several layouts of it. I want to encourage you to take your cell phone or a camera and take pictures as you do that, because as you see the picture here, it's anything but symmetrical. And believe me, I would have never put it together this way, except my husband told me when I laid it out symmetrically that it was really boring. And we lived in a house that had a loft that overlooked the living room. So I went up in the loft. This was laying on the living room floor, and I'd tell him, okay, so turn the second block, a quarter of a turn or a half a turn. And so we did that until we ended up with this asymmetrical design. Symmetrical in the middle, but once you veer off, we just had some fun with it. So I encourage you to have fun with it too. Now, I know the next question you probably have is, do I need to put a border on it? I did put a border. I don't have this one quilted because I use it to carry with me to teach, and it's a lot lighter to just take the quilt top. But the one that I made for the raffle quilt, I did put a border on it. And I believe I did navy blue because that to me was the predominant heavy color. And when you have this much action going on in the center of your quilt, that border will just frame it all in and keep your eye right in the middle of the quilt. So the next thing you want to know is, how do we quilt it? We're going to take a short sponsor break, and when we come back, I'm going to tell you how to do that.
You know, it's never been proven, but we all know that the floor gets 2 inches farther away every year on your birthday. We can help you out with that. You need a design wall. Check us out at offthewallquilt.com.
Havel Sewing, the choice of fabric artists for 40 years.
This quilting can be very, very simple. Straight lines is all you need. With all of these different fabrics, this isn't a place to put feathers or some kind of a real detailed quilting design. So I do it with masking tape, and I do it so that I follow the dark shapes and the light shapes. And so I'm going to just start right here, and I'm going to put it right down the middle. And when I get to the corner, I'm going to cut my tape, and now I'm going to go the other direction. Now, if you had this laying on a table, you'd be much more accurate at getting this in the middle than I am working on this wall. And then we're going to do a second row. And that's exactly what you would continue to do. I would do another row and another row so that we're making this a square. And I'm going to quilt on both sides of this blue tape. I will encourage you, if you're not fast at quilting and this is going to lay for quite a while, you want to just do as much as you're going to be able to quilt in this setting or this sitting while you're sitting there doing this part. Most of the time this does not come off on your fabric and be sticky, but I don't want to risk that. So I just usually tape as much as I want. And so on the light colors, you would do the same thing. We're going to go around and around, and then it switches to the dark. So we're going to follow the values of the colors in this quilt. So that's the end of our class for today. Again, I just want to encourage you to go register for the prizes the sponsors are giving away. We couldn't do this if we didn't have sponsors, and this is a good way for them to put some products in your hands. And if you're on YouTube, our channel there is Quilt TV. If you're on YouTube watching, you'll see a subscribe button. If you'll hit that button, every time we post a new video, you'll be one of the first to know about it because you'll get an email. And if you're not an AQS member, we have lots of new exciting things coming up. And so I encourage you to join the largest quilting organization in the world. And with that, thank you so much on behalf of our sponsors, Bernina, Everything Mary, Havel's Sewing, Tracy's Tables, Off the Wall Quilt, and Panasonic for the irons that we were able to use in the class, and products of theirs are what's in the giveaway. So thank you for joining us. Stay tuned to quiltweek.com/letsquilt because we have some more new classes coming up soon.